Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 11.3 has been out for a few days now. I've been using it on all three of these devices and wanted to share my experience with you. I also sent out a survey or a poll on Twitter and on YouTube under the community tab to see what you had to say as well. Now let's talk about my experience and then we'll move on to what you had to say about it. Now this is the new iPad, the 2018 iPad. I've been doing some comparisons and it's been working really well. Battery life is solid like you would expect, the 10 hours that you would expect, and I really haven't had any crashes or hiccups. Everything seems to be nice and fast, and it's working well on the new device anyway. That's got the A10 Fusion processor in it, so I would expect this to be fast. Now let's move on to these devices. I've got the iPhone 10 and the 8 Plus here. This 8 Plus is working well. I haven't had too many issues with it. In fact, iOS 11.3 is really what iOS 11 should have been, or 11.1 that they updated back in September, October, whenever that came out, or maybe even November at this point. I'd have to go back and look. But iOS 11.3 is really finally more polished and stable. For me, battery life easily gets me through a day. That seems to be the case with me for the most part. Some of you say that it's not, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But if I go into battery life, we'll go to battery here. Now, I did plug it in, or actually set it on a wireless charger for about 5 minutes today. And you'll see I had 5 hours and 13 hours of standby. And we're at 60% now. I would say realistically I'd be at 45 to 50% at this time right now with all these things running. Why Facebook is using so much power, I'm not sure. So maybe that's a bug and I need to close that app. But normally Facebook, I don't normally allow it to do that in the background because it does all sorts of weird things anyway. But this particular version just has been really stable compared to Beta 6. Now, I know a few of you were saying that it's not as good as Beta 6 with battery and things like that, but that is usually the case the first 1 or 2 days after you use it. So maybe you use the phone, it has to update and re-index everything or relearn where everything is in the OS or on the phone itself. And that takes up a lot of power in the background. So you'll be using it. It should sometimes feel a little stuttery or slow after you've been using it. Maybe you're doing a restore, things like that. You will see a difference with that. But after the first couple of days, and that's why I wait a few days for these videos, then we see how it really performs. So for me, it's been solid. I have not had a single app crash. Everything's working well. It feels polished and fast. Everything is as I would expect iPhone 10 to be, and iPhone 10 is finally acting like I would expect it to be. Now, as far as what you said, if I go into Twitter here, we'll go to my poll that I ran. Out of 1,310 votes, there was 66% of you that said it was great, 7% said terrible, and 27% said okay, but still some bugs. Now, one of the things I thought was quite good on here is if I scroll down and look at some of the comments here, we'll go all the way down here. Don Samuel George said, phone just froze but kept ringing when I received a call last night. Had to shut down my iPhone 8 Plus and boot it again. First problem post the iOS 11 update or iOS 11.3 update. The really neat thing here is Apple support. This is actual Apple support responded and said, that's not the experience we want you to have with iOS 11.3. Has it happened again since you restarted your phone? If so, DM us and we'll get things sorted out. And then he replied. So the really nice thing is they're actually looking at what people are saying to them. So I was in this thread, but that part's really nice, and I'm glad that they're actually caring about what people's experience are. Great battery life on iPhone 10. Still disappointed about no message or no cloud messaging. That's one weird thing a lot of you asked me about, and I forgot to mention in the iOS 11.3 overview, is iCloud messaging or messages in iCloud was taken out of the betas a beta or two ago and hasn't been back since. So maybe we'll see it with iOS 11.4. Also no mention of AirPlay 2, so that's kind of disappointing. iPhone 7 and pretty smooth. It's more smoother and faster than 11.2.6 using a 6S. Wired weather app bug, hourly weather broken. So in New Delhi, it looks like it's having some issues for you. The overall kind of butter smooth experience on my iPhone 6. 7 Plus performance is good. However, I've noticed my battery life is decreasing. So I do see this actually quite a lot in a lot of your comments. I went through all of them, or I don't know if I went through all of them on both YouTube and Twitter, but I went through quite a few of them, and most people are saying that battery life seems to be decreased. So I guess if most of you are experiencing that, that's the case. However, for me, I've seen it be about the same. Now, if we go to the community vote, this is where we have even more. We have 71% of you said great, only 5% said terrible, and 24% said okay, but still some bugs. That's 3,300 votes or so. So if we go down, you can see terrible battery life on iPhone 6s is not good. We'll go down great. My 6s rebooted on me yesterday, but apart from that, it's excellent. Still a few bugs. Performance is good. iPhone 10, iPhone 5s, very slow performance and laggy. Unfortunately, that's not the first time I've heard that on the 5S. I've heard the performance has been greatly decreased, and you don't have that battery option that you have with all the other phones, unfortunately. iPhone 8 Plus, great. So that's good. There's a lot of greats in here. Let's see what kind of bugs we have. I have the 7 Plus, but I'm giving my phone a few days to adapt still before I consider it a complete fail. Battery life's not great. Been getting awesome battery life on my 6S. It's been really fast, and music bug is gone from the new beta software, or from the beta software. RAM management is still terrible. I'm curious when you say RAM management is terrible, because there's not really a way to definitively see how it's managing RAM. If it's closing apps in the background, maybe you've got background apps going on here. When it reloads them, that doesn't mean it's poorly managing RAM. They're in a freeze state anyway, so it's not necessarily a bad RAM management. It's just the way that app is working. So let's see. Battery life seems okay on my iPhone 6s Plus. Scrolling is very, very jerky. So for the most part, as you can see, all of these say great. There's a lot of greats here, and I love to read through all of these comments. But for me, this is the most stable iOS 11 version I've seen yet, in my experience, on both phones, on the iPads. I think they've been really much more diligent, meaning Apple has been much more diligent in making the OS much more stable. And I think we'll see that with iOS 11.4 and iOS 12 going forward. Stability seems to be the main focus, since iOS 11 has been quite buggy. I expect iOS 11.4 maybe this week or so. It's early morning on the 2nd or Monday. Maybe we'll see it today or tomorrow. And then I would expect we see iOS 12, or at least the early versions of it, in July at WWDC, somewhere around this week. But let me know how it's been for you. If you find it to be the best, I'd love to hear that from you as well. And what would you like to see in iOS 12? I'm always curious to see what people think about that. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. I'll leave a link to the wallpaper in the description below. Thanks again to Hafed Marzouk for sending those along. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.